Hello and welcome to Film Physicality. In this video, I'll just be talking about the movies that I watched in March of 2023. Let's get to it. So the first one I watched is Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. This is from 2022, and of course it's an animated movie set in the Shrek universe, and it's directed by Joel Crawford, who only directed one other feature-length film, and it was Croods: A New Age. On this one, when Puss in Boots discovers that his passion for adventure has taken its toll and he has burned through 8 of his 9 lives, he launches on an epic journey to restore them by finding the mythical last wish. So this is a very fun movie. It really takes you back to how much fun watching the first Shrek movies was. Most of the jokes really worked, and it's a step to continuing the Shrek universe in a good direction. The use of the Spider-Verse style of animation during the action sequences was neither here nor there for me. It was just alright. I give this one a 4 out of 5. The next one I watched is Maid of Honor. This is from 2008, and it's a dramedy directed by Paul Whelan, who directed a lot of other lesser known movies, or at least movies that I haven't seen. Tom and Hannah are best friends, but Tom realizes that he actually loves Hannah just as she gets engaged, and Hannah invites Tom to be her maid of honor. So this movie was very cliched and also very unrealistic. I also don't really understand the wordplay on the word maid in the title. Nothing was about honor or having honor or actually being maid of honor. I give this one a 2 out of 5. I then watched or rewatched The Faculty. This is from 1998, and it's a horror sci-fi directed by Robert Rodriguez, who also directed From Dusk Till Dawn, Alita Battle Angel, Sin City, Spy Kids, and more. On this one, after some strange things start occurring at the high school, mainly focused on the strange development from some faculty members, a group of students intend to figure out and stop what is going on. So this is probably my 5th time watching this, and I've enjoyed it every time. It is a 90s teen slasher, but with a better than usual story and character background and development. Past the first act, you feel like every single teen character can be the main character, not just one main character with a bunch of disposable side characters, which is really something to be appreciated in a movie like this. It of course has some cheesiness. I mean, of course it's the 90s, but it's one of the better ones in my opinion. I give this one a 4 out of 5. I then went ahead and watched Dawn of the Dead. This is from 2004, and it's an action horror directed by Zack Snyder, who of course also directed Man of Steel, Watchmen, Army of the Dead, and others. On this one, a group of survivors of a worldwide plague that is producing aggressive flesh-eating zombies take refuge in a mega Midwestern shopping mall. So this is a pretty fun film with some good action and some pretty creepy scenes. The first act to me just was amazing. The second act was solid, but then the third act was just pretty weak in my opinion, with a very underwhelming ending. I give this one a 3 out of 5. I then watched Dark Glasses. This is from 2022, and it's a Shudder original horror mystery directed by Dario Argento, who of course also directed Suspiria, Tenebrae, Deep Red, and a lot others. On this one, a prostitute who was blinded by a serial killer in an attack takes in a young Chinese boy that was also affected by the attack, abruptly altering both of their lives forever. So this feels like a 70s movie, which can definitely be a good thing, but then it has some not so good material that you could forgive if it was actually from the 70s, but it's not. It's also not really centered around the mysteries as the older Argento films are. In turn, it's more focused on the experience of the victims. It was still a solid movie though. I give this one a 2.5 out of 5. I then watched Fear. This is from 1996, and it's a thriller directed by James Foley, who also directed Glengarry Glen Ross, which I have yet to see, and also directed The Perfect Stranger and the 50 Shades sequels. When Nicole met David, it seems like he was perfect, but soon she sees that David has a darker side, and his adoration turns to obsession. So this is a pretty solid thriller. It is cheesy at times, with some scenes that don't really make much sense, but then there are other scenes that are very memorable. But yeah, the movie as a whole is very interesting, especially Mark Wahlberg's character, which is very different than what he usually does, though sometimes it can feel a little forced. I give this one a 3 out of 5. I then watched The Lost Boys. This is from 1987, and it's a horror comedy directed by Joel Schumacher, who directed the masterpiece that is Batman and Robin. Joking aside though, he did direct some other good movies like A Time to Kill, The Number 23, 8mm, and some more as well. After moving to a new town, two brothers discover that the area is a haven for vampires. So this was a pretty fun movie overall. The comedy is pretty funny, especially from the younger kids, but then the parts that are meant to be serious, it's kinda hard to take them seriously. I don't know if it's just that the comedy takes away from it, or just because of how cheesy it is. But anyways, I give this one a 3 out of 5. The next one I watched is Hit. This is from 1995, and it's a crime drama thriller directed by Michael Mann, who also directed Collateral, Thief, Manhunter, among others. On this one, a master criminal is trying to control the rogue actions of one of his men, while also planning one last big heist before retiring. Meanwhile, a lieutenant attempts to track him down as he also deals with the chaos of his own life. This has a very great cast, including Al Pacino, Robert De Niro, Val Kilmer, and Ashley Judd, and they all give great performances. The movie is a bit slower than I would have liked, but it's still a very good thriller, with some pretty tense and very enjoyable action scenes. I give this one a 4 out of 5. The next one I watched is The Call. This is from 2020, and it's a South Korean mystery sci-fi thriller directed by Lee Seung-hyun, who this was his feature film directorial debut, but has a new upcoming movie called Ballerina. On this one, connected by phone in the same home but 20 years apart, a serial killer puts another woman's past and life on the line to change her own fate. So the premise on this, of course, is already very intriguing. It does have quite a few plot holes, but this is usual with time, or I guess time travel based movies. But if you can't ignore that, the time plane gives you a lot of fun surprises, and just makes for a very interesting and fun film. I give this one a 3 out of 5. The next one I watched is The Godfather Part 3, which is right here. Godfather Part 3. This is from 1990, and it's a crime drama directed by Francis Ford Coppola, who of course also directed the other Godfather movies, and Apocalypse Now and Bram Stoker's Dracula. This one follows Michael Corleone, now in his 60s, as he seeks to free his family from crime and find a suitable successor to his empire. So for the most part, the acting on this one is just as good as in the others, with a few exceptions though. But then the story doesn't even compare to the others. And then where the others were flawless on the dialogue, on this one it just feels very underwhelming. It's kinda hard to explain, but a lot of it is just not as believable, or just didn't make as much sense. I give this one a 3 out of 5. The next one I watched is E.T. the Extraterrestrial. This is from 1982, and it's a family sci-fi directed by Steven Spielberg, who of course also directed Jurassic Park, Jaws, Indiana Jones, Catch Me If You Can, and a lot others. After a gentle alien becomes stranded on Earth, the being is discovered and befriended by a young boy. The boy summons the courage to help the friendly alien escape from Earth and return to his home planet. I had never fully watched this one, just bits and pieces when I was a kid. And even though I can see the appeal for the time it came out, I still think this is overrated. It's a simple story that's not nearly as immersive or captivating as Spielberg's other films. It was an okay film, just not as good to be considered as much of a classic as it is, at least in my opinion. I give this one a 3 out of 5. I then went ahead and watched Friday the 13th, The Final Chapter. This is from 1984, and it's a horror slasher directed by Joseph Zito, who also directed The Prowler and some other Chuck Norris movies that I haven't seen. After being announced dead and taken to a morgue, Jason Voorhees spontaneously revives, escapes from the hospital, and stalks a group of friends renting a house near Crystal Lake. I've been watching all of these in order, and I think this is probably the best one out of the first 4. It's still a very cheesy teen slasher, but it at least has a bit more story to it. And I think the characters are also presented in a way that I think makes the viewer care at least a bit more about them, or at least know them better. I especially enjoyed Corey Feldman's child character. I give this one a 3 out of 5. The next one I watched is The Whale. This is from 2022, and it's an A24 drama film directed by Darren Aronofsky, who also directed Black Swan, Requiem for a Dream, Mother, and others. On this one, a reclusive and unhealthy English teacher hides out in his flat and eats his way to death, and he is desperate to reconnect with his teenage daughter for a last chance at redemption. Well, the first thing to get out of the way is that Brendan Fraser definitely gives an amazing performance here, and the Oscar is definitely well deserved. The movie as a whole was also pretty solid. It's the type of heartfelt story that really gets you to reflect on your own life, so I kind of expected a bit more to come out of it when it ended. I give this one a 4 out of 5. I then watched Hypnotic. This is from 2021, and it's a horror thriller directed by Matt Angel and Suzanne Kuhn, who both also directed Open House and an upcoming film called The Wrath of Becky. On this one, A young woman seeking self-improvement takes the help of a hypnotist, but the hypnotist engages her in a lethal game of mind manipulation. The movie stars Kate Siegel, and she does a great job as always. The story is interesting enough, but it does have a lot of lazy writing and plot holes, and that just takes a lot from it. I give this one a 2.5 out of 5. The next one I watched is Mirage. This is from 2018, and it's a Spanish mystery film, which is also known as Durante la Tormenta. And it's directed by Oriol Paulo, who also directed the two other great films that are The Invisible Guest and God's Crooked Lines. A space-time continuum glitch allows Vera to save a boy's life 25 years in the past, but it somehow greatly affects her present, and Vera must now fight to get things to the way they were before. So this has the sense of mystery that you would expect from Oriol Paulo, but it is a lot easier to predict on this one. The plot is very intriguing nonetheless, and it's hard to look away from the screen. The handling of the different timelines in these types of movies is not an easy thing to do, and while it does have a few flaws, I think the handling of time in this one is done very well. I give this one a 4 out of 5. And that's it for the movies that I watched this month. Thank you for watching, and if you like this video, don't forget to give me a like and a subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.